extremely gratifying and a source of consolation and strength to us all to realize just how numerous we are. That there are a couple million of us out there at least, and who knows how many more fellow travelers. But who has done this? Who brought us out so that we saw each other and realized how many of us there were? Well, it is probably the most humble person I have ever heard of or met. And of course it's Ron Paul, who is so gracious that he wants to give the credit to everyone else on earth other than himself. Well, it's you at the Mises Institute, which of course, we're doing good work, and I appreciate that, and it's wonderful. And I think the Mises Institute has been absolutely outstanding for this. But the spark that gets people to go hear us is this man. And since he won't accept the credit for it, I'm on his behalf going to accept the credit. This Orwellian nightmare and given us a glimpse of what it would be like to live in a free society once again. And now we're only going to know the full consequences of what he has done really 10 or 15 years from now, when some of the young people who became interested in these ideas because of him have gone through college, grad school, and we see what they do with their lives. Because for one thing, I can tell you this, the economics profession at the very least is never going to be the same. Because right now, the Austrian School of Economics, which Ron Paul has promoted through his career, is, first of all, it's the oldest continuously existing school of economic thought in the world. It is right now the smallest such school, but it is also the fastest growing. Because the rest of the stuff, the mainstream mathematical modeling, looks so passé to rising, bright young people. To the rising geniuses in our movement. They look at this and say, this is so 3 weeks ago. I mean, come on. But they listen to Austrian economics and it makes sense. It makes people want to go study economics. My view is that a lot of people who wind up studying economics, who study the Keynesian brand, they wound up there because they failed as a physicist. And so they got to do something with math, so they'll just be economics. It's not that they say, oh my gosh, I'm so moved by this vision. But yet, when you read our stuff, when you read the Austrian stuff, they say, this makes sense, it's true. And the vision of society that it holds out is very attractive too. That we don't need a class of overlords dictating to us who needs to do what. To the contrary, we need to tell them what to go do. Yeah. It's a family gathering, so I won't tell you exactly. Now, I am genuinely privileged to be a part of this. To watch this going on. I just figured I'd go through my life and, everything I believed in would keep being trampled on and nobody would champion it, and then I'd die. That'd be it. But at least we're going to put up a fight. And so what we all need to do is everybody needs to do something. Now I realize when I speak in a room like this and I say everybody has to do more, I feel guilty asking you. It's like asking Ron Paul, could you do a little more? I mean, I realize you're flying all over the country, you're writing books, you're giving speeches, you're doing interviews all over the place, and I hear he's also a congressman on top of this. So I do feel a little sorry, because I know, we're all working to the extent we can. But if there's anybody to whom this message resonates, then let me say this. Everybody needs to be doing something here. We don't have the luxury of just sitting back, listening to speeches, and then going home. The other side, and by the other side, I mean, most of society, basically, they have that luxury. They can listen to a President Obama speech and say, wasn't that a pretty little speech? And then go play golf and forget about it. We can't afford to do that because we know what's happening. We understand the economy, we know what's coming, what's going to happen to us, and so we are under a special obligation. So everybody needs to ask himself what he can do. Now, it's true that we can have influence on other people, obviously. But the one person, as Albert J. Knox said, that you can improve is yourself. And so you can always be doing something more. That is to say, if there's some area of the message that you just don't get or don't know about, well then learn more about it. And this is not so hard because thanks to the iPod, thanks to the free market, it's easier and easier to learn stuff. So I actually put together some reading lists, and then there's some audio stuff, because there's people just literally don't have the time. If you want to know, look, you know, I know the Fed's all wrong, but I don't get all the arguments, or I don't understand some of this lingo. Well, for Campaign for Liberty, I put together some reading lists to start with introductory stuff, because you look, there are a billion books and a billion audio files and a billion articles. What in the world? Where do I even begin? So I've sort of gone, you know, here's what you should start with, and then next, and then next. So I linked to that on my website, the articles page, tomwoods.com. It's also linked at Campaign for Liberty. So we can all learn, and I'm always reading more. I'm always learning something every day. You know, I go to LouRockwell.com, I go to Mises, I go to all these great informative sites. I read the blog at Campaign for Liberty. We can always be learning more. Because you'd be surprised at how little people who don't share our views actually know about a lot of these topics. They'll bluff all day long, but it's a bluff. Because if you actually start talking about the business cycle, they have no idea what you are saying. In fact, one of my professors, this name I will not mention, because he's a decent person, actually a very distinguished professor at Columbia University, openly admitted to us that he didn't know a thing about the economics of depressions. So his explanation for the depression, he decided, the depression of the 30s, he decided that he would just choose the one that most comported with his own political views. So his political views consist of me to have a big government managing society. So therefore, I will pick the theory that says the problem was, and the reason we had the Depression, was that we didn't have a big enough government directing the economy. So he chooses that. So he openly admitted that at an Ivy League institution, that he hasn't even bothered to look through this. He just thought, well, I'll just pick this for political reasons. He said that openly. So if you know like one solid paragraph about some of these subjects, it's enough to make people think that maybe there is an alternative that I have not been told and I've not heard about first. But every one of us has something to do, whether it's educating ourselves, giving your neighbor an article or a DVD or a book. Because think, a lot of people in this room got interested in this because they watched a YouTube speech that was forwarded to them or they read a book. Well, you've got to be that person to somebody else. And think about how many people can I reach every day. And sometimes, you know, it may be, it just has no effect. Well, okay, so you keep trying. But this is the sort of thing we need to do. And some people are great organizers, some people are good writers, some are good public speakers. We need people who can do all these things. We need people of wealth who can make donations to good causes that will get the freedom message out there. Whatever it is, you need to find out how you fit into this great division of labor. And if you can't think of anything to do, just ask any of the organizers in this room. They'll find something for you. I guarantee you that. We're fighting for what is true. And we should be reminded of what Ludwig von Mises, the great economist, said. He said, everyone carries a part of society on his shoulders. No one is relieved of his share of responsibility by others. And no one can find a safe way out for himself if society is sweeping toward destruction. Therefore, everyone, in his own interests, must thrust himself vigorously into the intellectual battle. None can stand aside with unconcern. The interest of everyone hangs on the result. Whether he chooses or not, every man is drawn into the great historical struggle, the decisive battle into which our epoch has plunged us. My friends, we are fighting for what is good, what is morally right, and what is true. And win or lose, we need all honorable people to stand with us, to commit themselves to this cause, to stand against the phony choices we're given, to stare evil in the face and to say, I do not want to live in an Orwellian nightmare. I choose to live in a free country. Thank you.